And record. Right, guys, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hope everybody is well. So, what we will do this morning, as always, we'll go through everything, and then obviously I'll go through the chat afterwards. And so I've introduced something I was thinking about yesterday because obviously, sometimes it's a bit slow. So especially at the moment, but I don't want to change anything too much because obviously we've been doing so well. So I'm going to introduce a wild card trade. Makes it a bit of fun, and obviously it is outside the five pairs that we trade, which is AD USD, GBP USD, Euro USD, USD JPY, and gold. So that's obviously start off a little bit differently way around this morning in regards to the news. We want to obviously know what is happening. Part of the reason why I waited until obviously after 7 and always do this. We want to be trading around the news, not not obviously before it. We want to wait for the data, the impulse to obviously come in, and then obviously we can ride that wave here. So we've had obviously some inflation data this morning for the pound. I think pound is underrated at the moment. I think it should be trading high. If you look at euro, it's flying. I wasn't expecting that, but obviously it's flying on the back of dollar strength. So we'll wait and see. So pretty, average the data for the pound, but obviously that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a bit of, I'm looking for a bit of stability in the, markets. We then got Trump speaking. I need to look into this before the speech comes out, and obviously then I will have a better idea of how much of an impact it's actually going to have. But apart from that, we got some Atlanta GDP later on, which we're not going to be anywhere near, involved in. Also, one thing, just skipping over. So I obviously have, basically three journals. I've obviously got my effects book, which is accurate, which is 100% accurate. I've got Trade Tab, which is 100% accurate. That's obviously free. And but obviously sometimes it can take a bit of a long time to upload, but it's back up and running today. But then I've got TradeZilla, which I joined up again to yesterday. But one interesting thing about TradeZilla is look at the days here, right? They're about 10% under. This is the actual the data. You can see here we're probably back to like 14,200 up. And as you can see here, this week we're 14, yeah, 128 up. So, you can see how accurate everything else is. But obviously, I've noticed that it's like under, which is interesting. So, but yeah, just something to point out about journals, and obviously just be a bit careful. But then they are brilliant for, I really really like probably this journal more than ever because my goal is to analyze last month potentially how were my slower days. Obviously December was a bit of an iffy one, but maybe, if we looked at, say, November, you can obviously analyze your data, and obviously that is what we are interested in here. It's just obviously analyzing the data and then obviously, making sure that obviously, what we're doing, how can we make it better? Because obviously, in essence, that's the only thing that's going to increase your trading is the only thing that increases everything. Is if you, make or allow yourself to obviously, record data. JPY wildcards just triggered. But then obviously we can utilize that data and and then obviously find out where we're going wrong. So US dollar, all right, still, yeah, yes, we've kind of holding strong here, 98,500, but to me, we're in a downtrend here. All right, you can't be looking at any other direction. And obviously, yes, that one time, we might get slightly caught out, but we're not going to get caught out that much because we're going to allow for this potential move to happen. What we're going to see here, I think, is probably one of two things. We're going to see price come up here, reject, and then continue. Or we might potentially see the opposite, where we see price come down here and then dollar gets a bit of strength. We do have Trump speaking, so I'm a bit optimistic. Not going to be in anything around 130. So those are the two kind of scenarios that I think we're going to see. Once 99 breaks again, and obviously it's holding strong, that is going to be one that, yeah, will then obviously change our outlook again. And, we can obviously then, capitalize on it. Um, so, yeah. Right. Let's look into our top picks from the top. Euro, it is flying. We've obviously broken through highs. Where are we going to come and retest? I didn't like any other areas apart from this one here. So I just want dollar to, like I'd said, strengthen up slightly, boom, down here. And then obviously it can reject, and obviously then we're hopping on a trend trade, a macro outlook trade. But obviously we've waited for all this to happen. So even if dollar does continue, and obviously this is one thing that's important, even if the dollar was to continue, strengthening, it's not going to strengthen like that. We will get a move, a little bit like where it'll come into here. It might do this, and then it will do this. So our worst case scenario always is this move here. Our best case is if it goes completely to plan and we get this move here. All right, so that's why what we are doing here. That's why it's working so well. Got GBP USD. Just wanted to play this one a little bit extra, safe. I do think this area is gonna hold, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't a good enough place for me to buy. One, because we had this huge move here. We've only had a small, move kind of back, but I do think there's a lot of support here. If I was to draw a rectangle around here, you can see rejection, rejection, pump. Soon as it's broken through, it's come back, retested this area, pump. As soon as it breaks through, it's just there's a lot of action here. So it wouldn't surprise me if we don't break through. But obviously this for me doesn't give me enough of a risk to reward, so it's not worth me taking. Aussie, I decided to stay away from. I don't think it's gonna, pump through. Plus, so my entry would have had to have been around here, all right? And look at all the consolidation we've got here. So to me, if this breaks through here, then it's not going to come back. It's going to be doing something. Let me just delete this. It's going to be doing. I'm going to draw it on. So it's going to be do something like this. And then it's going to be stuck here because this is very 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 strong here. So that's why I decided to stay out of that one. Um, so, and then we had USD JPY. I like this. I wanted US dollar to, like we said, with all the other pairs, strengthen up, come into this area, and then obviously, have its recall, which we might see happen. Now, this is obviously why sorry, gold also. I like this area, this 4,800. If we start looking at this on a lower time frame here, we want to be testing into this area here. I don't want to buy any higher, and it's unrealistic that it's going to come back down to this area in the next kind of week, so I wanted to find a good spot. If we are lucky enough, I do want a couple of gold trades this week to obviously boost the account up. But obviously, yeah, that's what I'm looking for here on gold. And then the wild card pick. So every day now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a wild card trading, and I'll try and do it in the morning and in the afternoon. I'm not going to rush it, but obviously, GBP, JPY, same as yesterday, just looks good. Now, why am I, selling the USD JPY but buying GBP JPY? All right, because look where we're trying to sell USD JPY from, up here, yeah. All right. So what we want when this movement happens, right? What is that going to do? That's going to strengthen this. All right. So very worst case, we should come in and tap this area here. All right. If obviously that's what happens, we might not get a pullback at all. But so we want to play on that. So that's why, yep, I like GBP JPY here. Yen has strengthened up a little bit this morning, but nothing to really worry about. Because I think if you look at, say, for example, Euro JPY, look at this huge move here, right? It's not really pulled back much. So if it can move up this quickly, it's going to move down a lot quicker than everything else. Now, GBP JPY hasn't done that. Yes, it's had this move, it's come down, but then it's consolidated here. So that's why I do think we've got a little better space. I'm hoping to obviously tap into this area here. So let's wait and see what happens here. So that's about it. Does anyone have any questions? Let me just go through the chat. Um, Martin, Trade Tab don't cover enough brokers for me, and their customer service seems pretty poor. Might trade. Yeah, they're relatively. I mean, I've got their jumper on here, but obviously they're a relatively new company, and obviously their idea is that they obviously want is free. So I think it's a good, really really good journal, but obviously TradeZilla, you're paying, I think, $39 a month. Um, and I don't think it's any more accurate. I just think it updates quicker. But obviously, I like how Trade Tab looks. They've obviously got a free university here. But yeah, it is nice. You've got your obviously metrics here, everything that you need here. So yeah, it is good. Why has the dollar suddenly weakened? Okay, okay. So it's all down to this Donald Trump. At the weekend, I went through it. I think on Sunday. It was the two things were gonna happen. Either either Donald was gonna act as a safe haven with gold and fly, but because it's dollar related. And obviously, it was his threats of, imposing tariffs on Europe, because they might not let him buy Greenland. And obviously that then it was he's now being, sanctioned, or potentially might be, sanctioned because you shouldn't use because the US Congress don't like that he's using tariffs as threats because obviously the country still needs to get on with Europe, China, Russia. They need to be friendly, and I think he is trying to create so much turmoil, and obviously it could damage, the US's reputation. Obviously, one thing that they've done very, very well is they've always had a good relationship with Europe. So yeah. But that's basically what it boils down to because what he doesn't realize he can throw out these threats, but obviously Europe and Great Britain do trade outside of the US, so and obviously they've everyone's getting stronger and stronger to ties with China, so obviously he's got to he's got to he's got to just watch out. Just to finish off on this one, Aki, I think he's trying to benefit from tariff threats, which manipulates the markets. No, I think, do you know what? There's a brilliant movie about Donald Trump. I recommend anyone watch it. I watched it on the plane. It's called The Apprentice. It's so interesting, and I promise you, you will if you watch that, you will understand, where he's coming from. I didn't like him before. I did not like him, but I liked him more after watching him. But there's parts of him you really really hate, but you understand that although he's a bit crazy, he's been fine-tuned from young to obviously, just want, his basically his, slogan, "Make America Great." Um, it's very, very true, because obviously that's the guy who he was an apprentice of. He was this big, lawyer in America, and obviously he helped him do everything. It's really, really interesting. But yeah, he's obviously he's his one role was make sure you put America first. So so obviously that although Donald Trump ends up stitching him up um, because he trained him too well. But yeah, it's quite interesting. Um, right, let's go through these. Drew, hi Dan, I'm new to the Inner Circle. What time do you usually close untriggered trade? Mornings, I will update you because there'll be some days if there's not heavy news and obviously markets haven't moved, we'll obviously hold through. Um, Afternoons, I don't think I won't want to see anything triggered past 4. So if it gets to 4, remove the triggers, and yeah, we'll obviously wait for tomorrow. Because that's the goal here is to one thing that I'm very 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 good at, which I was very very bad at previously, was patience. And obviously, just making sure that market comes to where you want it to. You're not trying to push it. So yeah, that's obviously one thing. Um, Morning. What happens to gold when Trump speaks today? More uncertainty. It depends. So whenever there's a speech, and the main two are Donald Trump or the president and Jerome Powell. All right. And so there's this thing called tonality, all right? And you really have to kind of the dissect a bit about, what kind of how confident they are in what the US is doing. And of course that's where if they're very, very, very confident, if they're optimistic, if they're what's called, if you're optimistic in trading terms, you're classed as hawkish. If you're pessimistic, don't really think anything's going to happen, you're dovish, So obviously, the more positive, the more confident, the more hawkish the speech, then obviously yes, it's going to fly. But obviously that will push the dollar as opposed to gold, and the more kind of certain that's then going to make investors think, right, well, stocks aren't going to fly yet, so I will hold on and I will keep obviously my positions in gold. Um, Gem, seen it? Yeah, it's really, really good. James, late to the meeting. Any update on the copier? No, copy is still, running. Yeah, yes, we obviously took a bit of a hit yesterday, but nothing that's, out of the ordinary here. I'll just go through it quickly for everyone so you kind of understand. So obviously mine completely closed out here, which I'm glad. No, it closed out about here. So it closed out Tuesday, probably about here. All right, which I was pretty glad of, because as you can see here, it's moved, another this many pips. All that's happened. It's just had a, probably a three time twice a year, move, where yeah, it's just carried on. There's not been, you can see normally these are very, very good trending pairs. All right, but this is a big move here. And I don't understand it because obviously, and that's why, because obviously AUD should be stronger. Sorry, AUD NZD here. Same thing. Everything, moves in what they call peaks and troughs. It's quite nicely trending, and that's brilliant. But this is one solid move here. So look, it's always gonna happen. I was obviously 50% up since November. So yeah, I'm still in a bit of profit, but obviously not as much as what I was before. So gold linked AUD, but gold was pumping. Yeah, so that's just yeah, it's look, markets are there. If it was easy, and markets moved how everyone wanted them to move all the time, then no one would have a job. They would just be trading because it'd be that easy. But it's not, and you know, um, you're always gonna have moves which kind of don't go to plan, and I think yeah, like I said, AUD CAD, NZD CAD, AUD NZD are the three safest currencies to trade because they don't have these moves here. Even this move here, there's pullbacks here. There's nothing here. So I'm pretty glad because if I'd have stayed in and obviously hadn't have cut it all off, we'd be in this much more um, drawdown. And the way everything's going at the moment, this could continue. We've got a consolidation area here, so this could continue here. And then we could carry on with our normal basic moves. So that's why I'm pretty sure the hedge fund are still in this trade. So obviously that's why there's been no trades yesterday on the copier. But yeah, hopefully something will trigger today. Do you think CAD will strengthen or weaken more with everything that's happening? CAD, I think overall it is, economy wise is pretty, steady. But I think that oil is the one thing that's, surprised me. It's not flown, considering obviously everything that's happened with, Venezuela and everything. I was expecting it to fly because there's a bit of oil being taken off the market, but I don't think that oil has actually been taken off the market. So oil's kind of stuck. Um, no, don't think it'll, fly. I think it's not, I mean, if you look at euro, it's been outperforming USD CAD this week, So yeah, I don't think it will, but let's wait and see. But yeah, I'm holding. It's just a tricky, week to trade. But obviously, hopefully, Trump. Remember, all this has happened off a tweet. All right, it's crazy. One tweet and everyone's gone, bam, bam, bananas. There's been billions and billions of dollars off of a tweet. That's how crazy the world is. But hopefully his speech today should kind of clear up, the direction. And it'll be interesting. What I'd love him to say is, "Don't worry, it was just a tweet. I'm not going to impose tariffs on the, 1st of February." So that's kind of what I'm hoping. But yeah, we'll obviously have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, right. I'm going to end it here. Um, Oh, hold on. What's your opinion on trading now versus 5 to 10 years ago? There is everyone's moaning a bit. There's a lot more help, but then there's a lot. This is a good question, Adrian. One that's completely caught me off guard. So I think what do you mean? Do you mean like in regards to learning or general trading? Because general trading is always like this, but obviously it's you can see markets have always done what it is. If I go to the daily, but I think what you had more easy to kind of read moves, like nothing was crazy. I mean, this was 2016. Well, we've always had crashes. We had the 2008 housing market crash, and then we had obviously COVID. There's all these, in the year 2000 we had that IT um bubble glitch thing where obviously everyone was worried that every computer was gonna blow up on 12 o'clock. But I think in regards to learning, there's a lot more information out there that's free. I mean, I started, like I said, about 10 to 12 years ago, and I had to pay. There was no groups, there was no freebies, nothing. I had to pay, and I paid 5 grand for obviously one 2 day course. I paid 5 grand. I paid 2 grand for another course. I paid 500 quid. I think that's kind of where the market's changed. But I do agree with everyone. There's a lot of rubbish out there. There is a lot of, people on YouTube, Instagram. I mean, most channels, I know for a fact that there's channels copying, mine. I don't have to copy because I, for a reason, I'm very, very different compared to everybody else. But obviously, yeah, there are channels just copying other channels, copies. So what you will find, I bet you if you're in 10 different channels, I bet you six of them are taking trades from, similar channels, and you might even find one channel is copying from another channel that's copying from another one, so it is a horrible industry. And obviously that's why we do things completely different here. We take our time. I want to trade now. How I'm going to trade in 10 years, and it's very, very cool, calm, calculated, so that's obviously what I want, everyone here. I want you, building capital. I want you, making money. Um, and I think, yeah, I think that I want you guys to have time freedom. Yeah, three C's, cool, calm, calculated. That's my new, slogan. But right, let's just go through a couple of these. Have you done anything on traded psychology? Loads. And I've done lots of. Do you know what trading psychology is? Just simple money psychology. But the biggest thing that will help you, and obviously, the reason I repeat lots of stuff on every single live is because I want you guys to drill into the same routine that I have. Check news, check check the dollar. All right. then you check your charts, and then obviously we can start to add little bits of a routine. But routine's key in regards to everything. Time, the times that you're doing stuff. I'm so disciplined. Lots of times I will wake up and I don't have that buzz anymore. Because I'm just like, I'm right. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to check the charts. I'm going to check the dollar. I'm going to check my Bloomberg. I'm going to analyze macros, and then I'm going to work out what I'm going to do. But actually, the more I think about it, and this year I've thought about it a lot more in regards to being I'd struggle with being content. I'd struggle with contentment. But I think that's one thing that I'm working really, really hard on, this year. But I think even in regards to trading, yeah, yes, it's boring, but I'm now looking at that's brilliant that it's boring and it's a routine and it's, rigid because it means that I've got there. It's clicked. It's everything's in place. You will not see me sway now. And I want all of you to get in this. That's one thing, James. One thing that I would work on is a bit of a routine. Because I promise you, if you'd stick to it, that's why now we obviously only trade the same, five pairs. If the market comes to us and they trigger, brilliant. And that's why obviously our, win rate. I think if I'm honest with you, everyone, profitability comes from, lack of discipline. And there is no amount of books that you could, read. It's very, very basic. You write a plan down, you have a routine, and you stick to it. That's it. It's that easy, And then obviously what you can do if your plan's not, not really, working, then obviously you can then, edit it and and then yeah, you can then make it more profitable, more profitable, and obviously that's why you want data. Everyone asks me all the time. Oh, it's logged out, but everyone asks me all the time like, oh, can I have a call? How am I gonna be profitable? And I go, look, record your data for a week, record how many pips it was, how much this, how much that, what times you traded. But actually, whenever I hop on, whenever I mention that, no one ends up doing it, and obviously no one ends up wanting a call. But every single week, you have to, make sure that you are, writing everything down, and then kind of, learning and then picking and, choosing like, right, you know what, I want. I didn't do this well, so I'm going to take that out, and then I'm going to do this. I didn't do this well, so what, I'm not going to trade that pair. This week on smaller lots. I'm going to try this one, and it's the more you kind of data play and play around with your own trading, as opposed to concentrating on just making profits, because then it's a grind. There's a big ball and chain which are dragging long every single week, and then obviously what I found, the weeks and the months kind of tick by, and I end up thinking to myself, right, well, year one, I've made this huge, step in, learning everything. But I promise you, year two, three, four, I didn't learn anything. I was just like year one, I did great, and then I think I just plateaued. And my confidence was probably doing this. So I think this is where you want to be playing around, making sure, because everyone will have, something that their eye catches better than anyone, and I think that that's obviously what you want to be, trying to find out, what's your best, times to trade, what do you what, pairs, make you feel the calmest. So yeah, I'm gonna stop waffling. I'll do someone's asked about the quarterly theory. Where is it? Aki. I'll do a video on this because I've got a bit of time today. I haven't got any plans, so I'll do a video on this for you guys, and I'll put it in the inner circle. But no, have a great Wednesday, everyone, and let's smash it. Uh, di stay disciplined. Start obviously, making a bit of a routine, and yeah, we're gonna smash it. Have a good one, guys.